and welcome to our third episode of Ideas and Insights. I'm Ellen OHara, and I'm the Creative Business Coach at Real Creative Futures, which is a free business support programme for creatives in Nottingham, and we're based at the New Art Exchange in Hyson Green, Nottingham, which is a internationally renowned and award-winning gallery space. And our programme is part of a much bigger initiative called the Big House, and that's a 3-year, £5 million support programme for creatives and digital businesses across Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. And today we're going to be talking about creativity and maybe moving into a bit of well-being as well. I think the conversation might go. And I'm really delighted to be joined by 3 of our fabulous specialist consultants and coaches, rather. Debbie Bryan, Camilla Brown and Carol Adlam. So, hi ladies.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
It'd be great to get a quick intro from each of you before we kick into our questions. So could we start with Camilla?
Yeah, my name is Camilla Brown and I'm a curator, writer and academic. For many years I was senior curator at the Photographers Gallery in London, and before that I was at Tate Liverpool. So my background is contemporary art, photography and film. For 12 years now I've been freelance and I've been doing more work in the academic sector. So I work at Middlesex University on a BA photography course and on an MA photography and fine art course at Derby University. And I've been doing quite a lot of work with the Big House programme with Ellen and the New Art Exchange team, primarily mentoring and offering ongoing professional development for creative artists and fine artists and photographers, but also running workshops on writing and offering other sorts of aspects of my skill set, sharing that with the creative industry in Nottingham and further.
Great, thank you. And Carol, please.
Hello, my name is Carol Adlam and I'm a writer and illustrator and an educator as well. I'm a senior lecturer in illustration at Nottingham Trent University. And my specialism is graphic novels, children's books and reportage illustration. And I also write scripts for performance as well as graphic novels. And I've been freelance for 10 years, and before that I was an academic. So I also have a background in academia generally. And I've been working with the New Art Exchange for the last couple of years, and I've been mentoring illustrators in particular. And I've run some illustration workshops there and some writing workshops there too.
Fabulous, thank you. And Debbie.
Hello, so I'm Debbie Bryan. We're based in Nottingham in the Lace Market, and my business kind of puts together programs, creative programs in the UK and overseas, and we've been doing some projects in China more recently. I also own a design studio, a little gallery and tea room and creative space in the Lace Market, and I'm also a practitioner as well, so that's where my kind of creativity started really. I'm sort of graduate of textiles at Nottingham Trent and did my masters there. So I'm still I make sort of fashion accessories, so knitted textiles, and I do mould making as well. And yeah, I'm really excited to be working with Real Creative Futures and working with the creative businesses.
Amazing, thank you. So we thought we'd talk about creativity today. So some of our participants on the programme, obviously they're all creative in their own right, and some have found it easier than others to think about how to adapt their practice during these times and what they should be doing, what they could be doing. So I just wanted to kick off with an open question really about why is it important for people to stay creative during these times? Is it important? And just what your kind of general views are on that. If we start with you, Camilla.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I suppose what I would say is, yes, of course it's important to be productive and creative, but I'd also think it's really important to set yourself realistic goals of what you can and can't achieve at this time. I think there's been a lot of pressure on people everyone's in very different situations, and they're picked up. Homeschooling is a challenge for parents, and so I suppose what I would suggest is just to be really realistic in what you set yourself to do, and be pragmatic in terms of, well, I can't do that, but I can do this. So I've been talking to quite a few people who have taken the opportunity to archive their practice as an example. They've got rolls and rolls of film, got lots of digital scans of their photography. They've never had a chance to properly order it. Doing that is really productive, and it's a really useful thing to do whilst you're in lockdown. I've had students who started to find ways of home printing using coffee and other materials and go back to very antiquated forms of photography that they can do at home. So really making the most of the situation in a kind of creative way, which I think all creative people are obviously very good at that. But I suppose also setting yourself an achievable goal so that you don't sort of feel that you can't achieve, and then you feel this sort of constant sense of failure that it's very easy to have, but instead you build very realistic small things that you can do and tick off and feel that you've achieved over the time.
Oh, I think that's lovely, actually. Yeah, and I like the idea of doing something like coffee printing.
Yeah.
Using what we have at our disposal right now. And what would you add to that, Carol?
Well, actually, I completely agree with Camilla there about small goals, and I think I've been thinking a lot about the shock of all of this, really, and that we shouldn't underestimate it, and the effect that has on our creative lives and on our general well-being. And I think, you know, it's well proven that creativity, generally having some creativity in your life is connected with well-being. But obviously, yeah, you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself to, you know, write your next great novel or whatever it is. I think I also agree, small steps are important, and just keeping the flame alive, but rather than, you know, a great conflagration, just a little flame doing a small thing every day can be one way of doing that. And then also there's the sort of behind the scenes back end stuff that you can be doing that, again, Camilla referred to, say archiving, general housekeeping of your practice, and reflecting on your values and what directions you might want your practice to go in future. So in a way, there's, rather than, I mean, you could do lots of sort of public facing work, but you can also use the time to reflect and contemplate and, in a way, be quiet and still, and then make decisions about what you do.
Yeah, thank you. And how about you, Debbie?
Yeah, I really loved the idea of keeping the flame alive. I just think, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I think, yeah, I mean, there was some real kind of practical stuff that I know I had to just kind of really focus in on creative-wise. But I think kind of what I've got into is kind of my creative flow. I found sort of my natural way of working, and I have required, I think structure is quite important, but at the same time, cutting yourself some slack if actually you just don't feel like it. But I think kind of, you know, easy wins. So when I was reflecting about this, I actually did a lot of really easy win tasks, creative tasks. That really, I didn't really realise it at the time, but that were probably actually just making me feel, right, I've completed that. You know, I've been successful at that. And that really helped, actually, me just keeping busy, using my hands, you know, actually not making a big song and dance about doing them, just doing it, just doing what I wanted to do. And I think actually those little bite-sized tasks actually mounted up to actually weeks and weeks of productive creative work. And I think kind of it really helped me sort of focus on something that I really, really love doing, which is actually being creative, because I also was dealing with the business end of stuff as well. And it was a real kind of a kind of respite. And in my normal day job, I probably don't do as much creative stuff as I'd like to. I've done more while I've been off. And I think just, so sort of setting those small bite-sized, easy wins, so nothing too challenging, so that your confidence about your ability is kind of maintained, because, you know, I think it's good to remember in this time that actually we're really good at being creative. This is what we do. This is our natural default setting. But I think also kind of structure, sense of achievement, I think kind of almost having a bit of a creative plan, even if it's a fluid one. So, you know, well, I do want to achieve this, but actually, I'm just kind of doing things in bite size. And I think ultimately, not putting any pressure on yourself. There's a lot of things out there at the moment, about learn a new skill, read a book in a day. And, I've got a lot of friends that are doing these 30-day challenges, and they sound flipping terrifying. But, I just say, oh God, but I think actually having structure and almost a fluid timetable, if that's the right word, is it fluidity in your timetable, and whether that timetable is a day, it's not a time, it's more about more purpose driven. It's actually, well, I want to do A, B, C and D over the next few months maybe. And I think that's really helped me not feel negative when I've not actually achieved that. It's like, well, I didn't say I was going to do it by the end of today, I just said I was going to do it.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like what you said about kind of rediscovering your creative flow. That's when you're in the rhythm of daily business, and you have another structure that you have to work to, don't you? Actually,
I think the sorry,
one more thing as well I was thinking about as well, in terms of being positive about what we've all done. I don't know how many people have probably not even recognized that we've all become so much better on Zoom, and we've all become much better video calling. I am of a generation where this is all quite new to me.
Me too.
Explain it to my mum in excruciating detail, but bless her, she is now Zoom friendly. This is a small thing. We've absorbed a massive new way of communicating, and we're adapting to that creatively. That's a real positive, actually.
Absolutely.
You just had to do it.
Yeah. And Carol,
absolutely.
what would you like to say?
Yes, I was just going to say, just going back to the idea of creative flow and everything, and but I just wanted to say that I found it at the beginning, for the first month or two. How long have we been locked down? I've lost track. Anyway, month, year, whatever it was. I found it really difficult to concentrate on anything big. And every single job took me forever. It seemed like I was wading through treacle. And I think, again, just going back to the kind of emotional impact of what we're all undergoing, shouldn't be underestimated. But I think setting those, as Debbie said, setting those small tasks, or doing some little thing every day, has really helped me to sort of overcome that. And then sort of, I feel like I'm much more in a period where I can start to get into a flow. So I think, just to restate really that idea of not feeling bad if you haven't, learned a language in 30 days or whatever it's been.
Absolutely. And I think
that's really important.
Experience that we're hearing about what you said, Cara, about things taking a lot longer and not being able to focus, being really easily distracted. And a wellbeing colleague of ours was explaining to us about kind of the fatigue that we feel when there's a crisis, and also the amount of adaptation that we're having to go through in every area of our lives, our home life, our work life, our creative life, and that it's
exhausting.
It really takes its toll. So I think what you're all saying about being a bit kinder to ourselves and thinking about having a bit more compassion, thinking I can achieve something, but if I don't finish it today, it's okay. If I try to start something and really just can't zone in, then that's okay, and maybe try something else.
I mean, I have been sort of talking to students about that brain fog, as some of them are finding it quite difficult to concentrate on reading. So I've been really encouraging them to think about audio books and different ways of accessing material, and we're trying to be more flexible in terms of those types of resources as well, a video, a documentary, a film, because I think a lot of people are almost getting like that blank page thing of not being able to write, but being intimidated by a very big book. And so, I think it's definitely, I've been calling it brain fog. It's like it's been impacting everybody, I think.
I think maybe as well, sort of valuing creativity in maybe a lot broader than you might have imagined it before. And and really, I know for myself, I'm doing all of a sudden I'm doing things that I wasn't like going, oh, I'm going to do this, but they're just happening. They're quite natural. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's part of my routine now. And I would have maybe called it a chore before. But, you know, it's like you reframe it a little bit. And because you remove the stress of trying to fit it in around work, or, you know, and actually there's creative process in a lot of things that we do, you know, and routine and you know, yeah, I mean, it's maybe valuing creativity in a different way as well. I'm really enjoying doing that.
Yeah, and recognizing that and acknowledging that.
I saw an artist the other day who's on his daily jogs. He's using his GPS to draw little pictures. See what I mean? So he's recording his runs, and they make little images. So there's that kind of like thing that you can just a little idea.
That's a lovely example, isn't it? And Carol, I know we mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but you were talking about how you'd been kind of creating little mini projects for yourself.
Yes, that's right.
A bit more about that again, please, because it's...
Yes, of course. Yeah. So in the first month, I had a residency at the University of St Andrews, a writing residency, and I was meant to be there. And of course, that didn't happen. So I said to them, I suggested a remote residency. And so from my front room every day for a month, I basically wrote a blog, but I tweeted it. So I wrote and illustrated a blog. And over the course of the month, it really developed, and it helped me every day, because it was, so it was one picture and one blog entry each time, but it created a sort of story in itself. It grew as I went, and I found that very satisfying. And out of that, actually, there's the possibility of that being published as a book. So in a way, that small little project has really helped me get through that initial month. And then I've also been using work right now. I'm in the middle of a Twitter exhibition, as it's called. It's called Still Here, Still Waiting, and it's about the University of Nottingham's Museum of Archaeology, where I was artist in residence a few years ago. And when I was artist in residence, I made all sorts of sort of reference drawings for the project that I was doing of the artifacts. And I was discussing this with the curator of the museum, Claire Pickersgill, and suddenly thought, well, I could just do the same thing, doing an exhibition a day, every day. So every day I tweet an image from those drawings. And again, that's been getting quite a lot of attention and, comments from people. So I just do it every morning. I get up, I choose one, I have a little play around on Photoshop, tweak it a bit. And it's a way of using old work without too much energy from me needing to go into it, but people seem to be enjoying it. And so it's helping me feel as though I'm active and engaged with the network of people I know, and a wider network as well.
That's really lovely. And I think that's thinking about your archive and perhaps work that you've already got.
That's right.
And thinking creatively about that feels like something that a lot of people could be doing, actually.
Absolutely. So not creating new work necessarily, but just going back and reframing it, or just tweaking it slightly, repositioning it, and using it in a different context, and that can just bring you a new audience altogether, as I've been finding. And
Camilla, in terms of your own creative practice, what have you noticed?
Well, I mean, I definitely would definitely echo that. I mean, I think I'm just not in a position to generate new research or new ideas or new reading, because I have had times of being quite overwhelmed with the homeschooling aspect of lockdown, and that was all a bit of a shock to process. I had 2 school-age children, one at secondary, one at primary, to teach concurrently while still working. So the thing that I couldn't take on was new research, which would have been lovely to have had an opportunity. But that idea of repositioning old work has been very interesting, and an opportunity to do that and to find new platforms and new ways of relaying stuff that I've already done. And that notion of reflecting back a little bit, which has been really good. And then I suppose creatively, because I write, but I'm right on other people's work. rather than generating my own writing. It's also been interesting to sort of think specifically about online education and online platforms and how to respond to that. And very bizarrely, quickly, I became somebody that other people started to ask about that. I suppose it's just quite, if you respond quickly, you become an expert really quick. You don't feel like an expert, but it's been quite interesting to sort of think through how to shift the way you work to those platforms and to build on the strengths. And there's been a couple of very successful online talks that I've chaired which have worked better online because I found questions because people seem more comfortable typing them in than having to put their hand up and ask. Sort of thinking through these new platforms and how they might work. That repositioning is definitely something I've been trying to do.
Yeah, that sounds great. And have you, I'm getting the sense that you know, learning a new language and writing that book isn't the route that anyone's been taking, but have any of you found any other resources or seen any other resources or things that you thought either you found useful, or perhaps for your students or your staff you thought you've kind of passed on to people or suggested that they look at?
Yes, if I can say a few. So I found so in my field of illustration, the Association of Illustrators has some really useful resources, including they've had a campaign called something like Stay In, Reach Out #, and it's it kind of went along with a 2-week plan. So it was basically that housekeeping idea that, you know, while again not doing some grand projects, there are various things that you could do. So it was sort of walking you through you know, various aspects of your practice and what you might look at. So they were talking about, you know, okay, on day 2 you might have a look at our resources on licensing, for instance, or on copyright, and, you know, make sure you're up to speed with that. So in a way, little kind of mini classes or mini tasks for people to do. So I found that quite a useful resource. The Society of Authors has also been a good place to go, again for illustrators and writers, of course. Arts Council also, they're just starting, actually. I know they've suspended their funding, or they had an emergency fund, but they're sort of in limbo at the moment, waiting to see what will happen. But they've got a new campaign called Create Well 2020, which is about well-being and creativity, and they're just starting to kind of do a series of blogs on that. And again, I was just reading that you know, lately and thinking, oh yeah, there's some really useful stuff in there too. Yeah, so they're just a few, and of course places like Mind that offer support for people more generally, as well as for creatives. So yeah, they're just a few resources that I found helpful.
Camilla or Debbie, have you seen any that you've thought were useful?
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of set up a separate email account so that I could kind of register for newsletters and sign-ups and stuff, and they were all coming into one place. And that's been a really great resource for me to have a look at. But I would say so as I come across things, I sign up, and then it's kind of I'm saving that information. But I would say, just to echo what's been said about the Arts Council, Arts Council have been putting some really great stuff on their Facebook page and some really good links. And I think kind of ones that I followed up with were the creativity and wellbeing.org.uk. So they've just had a whole week of activity, but there's some, it's all about kind of positive futures and things. So there's huge kind of little reports and blogs and things that you can go off on a tangent and just kind of explore and just see what grabs you, you know, just see what jumps out at you. And I think also I've been doing a bit more kind of not sort of heavy reading, but more sort of shorter kind of blog type stuff. I mean, I really like Mary Porter. She does some really good stuff, and then from her, you see, she's recommending other places to go and look. And so I've been listening to a lot of things, a few TED Talks and stuff like that, but it might be about sort of just exploring a bit. You know, if you've got people that you like, you know, it's highly likely they're going to lead you on to other people that you'll probably also like. So I've kind of definitely made more time to see you know, what not necessarily my peer group, but sort of people who are doing amazing things out there and are putting their own take on this. And it's been really insightful. And I think, you know, Mary Porter's just kind of said something, because obviously, you know, she talks great stuff about retail, and that's the business I'm in. And, you know, every sort of penny that's spent, you know, during lockdown is telling us what our customers want, you know. And I kind of thought, yeah, the customers will always tell you what they want from you. You know, you've just got to listen. And I think, so yeah, I think kind of the Arts Council, a friend of mine recommended this 30-day challenge that she did, but I mean, it sounds terrifying to me, but she was absolutely bouncing off the walls about it. And that was kind of leeandpaula.com. So they did a free 30-day challenge, but it does kind of lead you into buying something from them. But yeah, and also there's a great artist called Jennifer Collier who's been putting some kind of free how-tos out there, you know. So there's a lot of artists out there that are sharing little, you know, things that they're happy to give away, which are nice little tasters.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. On the 30-day challenge idea, I don't know if you know, there's a company called 64 Million Artists, and their idea is championing, you know, everyday creativity in all of us, and the fact that every citizen is an artist. They run a January challenge, usually with a small creative challenge every day that you can just do in your home, like, you know, find 10 things that are blue and photograph them, or write a 3-word poem, you know, that kind of thing. And they relaunched it for May as a kind of lockdown. It was called Connect to Create, because the idea with that is that they have a website, so they have a method called Do, Think, Share. So you do something, you reflect on it, how did that make me feel, what did I learn, and then if you want to, you can share your work on their Instagram and connect with everyone else that's doing the same challenge. And it's a really lovely thing. Actually, my mum met a knitting network through doing the January challenge a couple of years ago on Facebook, who she still knits with. So, and how about you, Camilla? Have you seen any?
Well, I suppose there have been some commissions that have been happening around photography in lockdown. I think one of the issues around photography at this time was how to, you know, how to make really interesting creative work in such a constricted sort of environment. But there have been some nice projects with artists being commissioned to make work. But also there's just a huge amount of cultural stuff that's free and online and accessible, like the National Theatre and also cinema. And I think those sorts of things I've been absorbing and enjoying, those, you know, the opportunity to see things that you wouldn't usually get to have such access to, while everybody's sort of rethinking how those types of venue-based organisations are going to go forward, really. But I suppose, to be honest, I feel this is something I haven't really embraced as much as I would have liked to, in terms of really accessing the creative content that's out there and available that I haven't previously seen.
Yeah. It's finding, it feels like it should be a time for lots of free time and lots of new learning. But as you're saying, actually, there's so much going on, isn't there? Carol,
Sorry to interrupt. Yes, I was just reminded by that Camilla's talking about the National Theatre, that the Nottingham Playhouse is doing something similar as well, with performance of what was it called, The Madness of King George, including behind the scenes stuff. So I think there's a lot. So that's also prompting me to have a look around as well, and find things like that locally as well as the big nationals. But yeah, to try and keep theatre and performance alive as well.
Absolutely. And on the point of photography, there's a company on the program called Lens Fair, and they do work with film photographers and reconditioning old cameras, and they're running a brilliant Instagram campaign at the moment called Creatives in Captivity, film photographers to send them 2 or 3 images, and just a little bit about how they're adapting their practice, you know, how, if they're not able to get into the dark room, or, you know, what else are they doing, and sharing some of those images. And it's a really lovely campaign because it's surfacing all sorts of different work from all over the place, and it's building a really, really lovely story, actually. Personal, I think you've noticed personally in terms of the importance of creativity from a well-being point of view.
Yes, I think I've felt it's really important for my own well-being to actually get away from the screen. So analog methods of making stuff have been helpful to me. So in my case, that's drawing, or in fact doing a bit of writing, or when I'm out and about, going on my daily shuffle around the block, occasionally taking a little sketchbook with me and drawing some of the things that I see, some of the sort of trying to capture that sense of strangeness. But so for me, there's something about well-being and sort of slowing down and not allowing myself to be inundated by the kind of great, overwhelming, constant news feed, bad news feed, as of course it is at the moment. And by doing that, by actually sort of stepping away from the screen, if I can, it's not always easy, and and actually getting a pen and a piece of paper and just doing a drawing.
I think there's something quite grounding about using all of our senses, or more than one sense, really. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Mindful from this perspective.
Yeah.
Debbie or Camilla, have you noticed anything, or have any particular thoughts around that in terms of well-being?
Yeah, I think kind of right from the off, I really try to, I need structure in my day, I've kind of, that's something I kind of know about myself. So kind of I knew that I had to really sort of confront the change that was going to happen, because I have a place that I go to work, I have people around me all the time, and then I'm sort of in my little room. Luckily I'm in a quiet space, so that's great. But I think what I tried to do was sort of look at kind of some kind of routine and structure. And I think so, my routine now is I get up quite very early, actually. I found that I'm waking up quite early, and I'm ready to do my screen time in the morning and get all that done and dusted. And then I have my structure for lunch, and then my afternoon is whatever I want to do. So whether that's creative, go to sleep, go to the allotment, go out for a walk, but I don't tend to work in the afternoons, and that was mainly down to probably it was so warm. But then I come back to it and I round up the day, and then I've been doing kind of board games in the evening. My boyfriend Philip reminded me that I know how to play chess, and so now we have chess at 9 o'clock. And you see, whatever I've been thinking about in the day, that and sometimes it's kind of tough stuff to get my head around, just doing those board games actually just really helps me switch off, and I just literally forget about everything. And so I'm quite rigid about a couple of those things, like the lunch break, the time, breaking off in the afternoon and doing the board game at night, because it's helping me not get to sleep, basically, because there's a lot to think about, so yeah, I found for me having that structure alongside real flexibility, if that didn't happen in a day, I wouldn't be going mental, but that's my intention of how my sort of working week is.
And I think that structure is really important, isn't it? And also it just takes away a few of the daily decisions that are already made. I think there's also a degree of like decision fatigue happening. So much change. I was reading an article the other week about an artist who said she's just wearing the same kind of uniform every day, and hadn't noticed she'd been doing it. Just the same kind of outfit, and actually realised it just takes another decision away at the beginning of the day, and she's at home, so it's okay. And so then she tried to look at all the other things in her day that she could just think, okay, that could be the same every day, and it wouldn't become mundane, and it's just one less thing to think about. Camilla, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was going to say I've become almost military in routine, which I hadn't appreciated I was going to be like. I think I got very concerned about being able to sleep, and I got very concerned about my children burning off energy. So we do a keep fit routine, and we get up, do exercise every morning, and that really helps focus and get you in the right mindset. And I think for all of us, which perhaps creatives are more used to, it's this blurring of home and work in one domestic setting that's actually got its own challenges in terms of zoning spaces, I do get dressed for work. I wear my lycra when I'm exercising, then I get dressed for work. And I've talked to friends about just that process of getting dressed in an outfit that you would usually wear when you go out, to sort of boundary what's home and what's work. I'm finding I need to do that, zoning areas of the house as much as possible, although everybody's using different areas all the time. And I think for well-being, that time of consciously switching off your phone and not being attached to social media is so important, because I think whenever you start to work at home, there's this massive blurring of all the different times of day. You don't switch off. And I've spoken to a number of friends, and I know from my own experience that doing that, for me, I have to do quite a high intensity workout. Maybe I'm not very good at just being still, but it's really helped. It's burnt off the energy, it's helped me concentrate, and I haven't had the problems. I still have some problems sleeping, but not as much as I would. And I think that's been really key.
I think kind of for me, I think having, I know this is not what everyone can do, but trying to have a work area, even if it like almost like really, I mean, I only live with one other person, so we're quite, I'm quite lucky with not competing for space. But I think kind of I had to communicate, because my boyfriend's on furlough, he's not doing any work at all, he's off completely, so we've got very different commitments with what we're doing, and that had to be worked out, that actually, this is work time for me. And I think kind of zoning the space and kind of having that structure, and actually having a conversation about what I've got on that week, or what he's got on that week. And I think kind of making sure that there's an understanding there, because I'm still working, I'm still getting on with things.
I suppose that's another thing to say, is that it's been a very odd time, I think, in the fact that everybody has faced very different challenges, because being furloughed must be a huge challenge as well, actually. That's one of the things that's been very hard for everybody. There isn't a fix all, is there? We're all in different sort of situations. Some of the challenges actually keeping motivated and keeping going, keeping busy. Other people are completely overwhelmed. I think our own experiences of this are very separate, and it's a sort of inability to really help each other that's been quite frustrating as well, when you see friends struggling and you think, well, I could help, but I can't help because I can't have your kids over. It's really hard, I think, not being able to help people as well.
I've got a kind of final question, which is quite a big one actually, and it's thinking about kind of creativity as we move forwards, how that might change for you in terms of it might be changing for your customers, and just any thoughts really that you might have on that.
I've been sorry, after you.
Thanks, Debbie. Okay. I've been thinking about the balance of the different activities that I normally do and how that might change. And in fact, some of it has changed in that I've been probably doing more teaching than I would normally do, because I've had more demand from clients for that as well. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on, because I need to make sure that the kind of the proportions remain as I want them to be. But it's very hard to look beyond the next few months. That's a huge challenge for me, and I'm kind of shying away from looking at it too much. So because then anxiety takes over. So I think long-term planning is really hard to do, and even mid-term. But I am trying. There are strategies for kind of managing that, and I suppose one of those is about sort of keeping your client base or customer base alive and aware that you're still there, and so sort of doing little things to keep in touch with them. So we were talking yesterday about sending out analog newsletters, that sort of thing, so that in a way, while you might know what the opportunities will be for you, there will still be some opportunities because you're keeping doors open. So that's what I suppose I'm trying to do: think about balance and think about keeping those doors even just slightly ajar, and see what might come through, and trying not to panic about the rest of it. So that's where physical exercise is really key as well. Just getting out there and going for a walk, for instance. So they're my thoughts about the future. But I mean, in terms of I think as we said before, creative people are well placed in that sense that they're used to being flexible, they're used to solving problems, they're used to being all-in-one project managers of big ideas. So I think there are lots of positives to be gained from this, to be taken from this situation. In terms of illustration, I think there will still be a need for illustrators, and in fact, kind of digital consumption means that visual images are increasingly important. But I think people, as I say, people still want to have physical objects. So that's something that I think we might see a resurgence in, say, printed matter. Beautiful books, novels. I gather book publishers have had a resurgence, and that people have been buying more and more books to read, just to get away from the screens. So for me, as a writer as well as an illustrator, there are some chinks of light there.
That's great, thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah, I think we're a customer-facing business, and I think we are in the business of gatherings. That's what we do really well, and I think I've been really thinking a lot about what our business is going to be moving forward, and what our customers will want from us. So I think but also I think, what am I interested in doing? What kind of business do I want to, reimagine or create? Because I don't think it's as simple as us just opening our doors, and starting trading again. I think that we, have to refine things. We have to edit things down. We have to, really just presenting maybe the best of ourselves, so that actually, we're curating that experience for our customers based on, a real understanding of what maybe they've been going through, and so listening and trying to tune into sort of what the atmosphere is, and I think we've not stayed open. We've not, we've stepped back from social media. We've stepped back from, but we are getting people still buying from us online, and we are still getting people contacting us about bookings and things, which is really encouraging. And we do have special customers that we can talk to and ask, how are you feeling about this? So we're doing all of that, because I think whatever we are moving forward has to be almost like feels like a collaborative, offer. It can't be just what I want to do. It has to be, what my team are interested in doing. It has to be what our customers might want. And I think from simple things to thinking about what colours we're going to use in our branding, what colours our interior is going to be, just to make sure that we're really tuned in to how, what they need from us, when we reopen. And I want to be really sensitive to that, and so that we can guide them back in, and know that we're sort of maybe a place that they still want to come to, and spend time. So I think really thinking about how we can refine our offer to make it still be relevant. But alongside that, is that what I want to do? Because, to run your own business, you have to be so determined. When things are tough, I have to have that love and that passion to just, it's got to succeed. It's got to keep going. And I think, ultimately, whatever we represent to our customers has to be still, those values that I had when I started the business. I'm revisiting all of that stuff, and it's a really lovely experience. I'm really enjoying it, but at the same time I know that I've got some really difficult decisions to make. We might be losing some things that were really a big part of what we used to do, and we might be introducing new things which are, is that going to work? But there's a real sort of open-minded approach to what our creativity and what our offer is going to be moving forward, because you've got to love it. You've got to love what you do, you know, because that's what's going to keep things moving forward, isn't it? You know, but yeah, the listening to customers and trying to gauge what the vibe is, you know, it's really quite challenging.
Yeah, but I really like the idea of that, of a collaborative, creative approach, and actually thinking about, you know, using your creativity to redesign what you do, from everything from the colour scheme to the actual offer. And I think see that business design as a creative act in itself.
Because you are your business. You have made it up. It wasn't there before I had the idea in my head, you know. So it, you know, it's kind of, it can be whatever I want it to be, you know. But I'm really wanting to, it not just to be about what I want, for it to be about, well, what does our community want? What does my tribe want, you know, when they come back? And yeah, I feel really optimistic about what that could be, you know. And I think also the Nottingham has an amazing independent scene. We have like the best creative businesses in this region. And I think kind of, I feel that this is a real opportunity for creative businesses to, you know, own it, you know, because it's what people are going to want. They're going to want us, you know. So that's what I feel. That's, you know, I think we're going to be, you know, you know, and it's just really making sure that, you know, we have that platform, you know, that we have that space to actually develop and to grow and to be accessible to people, I think, you know.
That's great, thank you. Always the optimist, I love it. And how about you, Camilla?
Well, I think for me, if my creativity tends to be exactly that, working collaboratively with other people, and I have struggled a little bit to see a way forward for that when you're not actually meeting people face to face. But I was involved with quite an interesting discussion with the Creative Industries Federation, where they got a whole cross-section of art forms represented in, of course, a very large Zoom meeting. But one of the possibilities there that I felt quite excited by is actually much more cross-pollination across art forms. We're very siloed in the way that we work. So theatres, as we know, have real challenges, but they also have very big central spaces. And what are they going to use them for? You know, how are cinemas going to be used? How's the games industry responding to this, which is a very, you know, it's been a very natural segue for them because so much of it's digital online platforms. So I felt there was a possibility there of actually working across different sectors in a really interesting way, and people being much more open to that. How do you facilitate that? I guess it will be those sorts of advocacy organisations who might be able to pull those networks together. And I remember giving a talk on another note on this with them a few years ago about remote working and the advantages of remote working in terms of empowering women as well. And I feel for myself that one of the barriers for me in terms of networking, but also working further afield, is you're quite restricted in your physical location when you have young children. And I think there's actually real opportunities here for working further afield and developing more work, because suddenly the travel element goes, and you know, means it opens the door to people, but not just in my situation, people who are caring for elderly relatives, people who have physical disabilities. You know, this is opportunity, I think, and it would be great to sort of rethink the models of how we work. I think there's been a block to working remotely that perhaps has been unblocked through this process, and that there's real opportunities for opening it out to a more diverse workforce. And I mean, I'd really love to see that. I'd love to see this, you know, as a positive move. It certainly will have a very positive environmental impact, you know, in terms of limiting travel and starting to work more collaboratively across sectors.
That's lovely, thank you. Yeah, I think there's definitely been a sense of demystifying remote working and getting rid of the negative assumptions about people not being productive or not working. It's, yeah, definitely an unblocking, I think. And I think you're right. I think the potential for new collaborations that allows and fosters could be really powerful. That's amazing, thank you so much. As usual, tons of insights and inspiring stories, and it's been a delight listening to all of you, actually. Thank you so much. So we'll bring the session to a close and just say a big thanks, and to say to anyone watching or listening, you can find out more about the programme and how to enrol at the website, which you'll see on the next slide, and tune in for the next episode. So thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.